need to open the video that is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say. You can type words, use emojis, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message, press the enter key on your keyboard or click the send button. Your comment will then appear in the chat for everyone watching the live.
Good day. Good day. This is podcast number 177, the Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast. Allow me to start by expressing my deep sorrow and disgust over the attack on a policeman and members of his family that left his spouse dead and the policeman and his 5-year-old son in hospital. Let's pray that the lives of the policeman and his son will be saved following this cowardly attack in St. James yesterday. From reactions on social media, the nation is praying for the policeman. So, in a few hours at most, frankly speaking, we'll all know the date for the next general election. The Prime Minister has announced the date at a rally in Halfway Tree, St. Andrew. So, frankly speaking, the guessing will soon be over. Then all focus will be on the big day. And the Frankly Speaking Jamaica podcast, you can be rest assured, will shine as much light on it as we can over the next few weeks to the elections themselves. But frankly speaking, up to the day and beyond, there are issues that Jamaicans face and will continue to face, including health. We invite your comments on the space provided on the channel as indicated at the top of the podcast. We value your feedback and involvement in the program. And we are thankful that you have joined us. Last week, Wednesday, on Independence Day, TVJ carried a story about a machine that could save the lives of people who had got a stroke. If. But here's the eyebrow-raising part. There's only one such machine in Jamaica, and it's at the University Hospital of the West Indies. And there's only one trained doctor to operate it. No, that's not the only machine or medical personnel available in Jamaica for strokes. Dr. Alverston Bailey, our guest today, will put it all in context for us. As usual, before that, we have comments from regular panelists Winnie and Desmond, who has a few things to say on life certificates, and Desmond Richards, who is focused on the elections. But first, Dr. Alverston Bailey. He has loads of titles. He's a well-researched general practitioner with a practice in Falmouth. He has headed several boards and all of that. But to the point today, we welcome Dr. Bailey. Dr. Bailey, please explain to us, as we welcome you, the purpose of the machine we are speaking about and why it's a big deal.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McKnight. It really is a pleasure to join you and to add some clarity to the conversation. I thought that I would begin the discussion by just providing the listeners with some information with respect to the...
You're a little bit low, I think. I don't know if you could up the volume a little bit. You're a little bit low, Dr. Bailey.
Okay.
But we're hearing you.
Okay.
We're hearing you.
Right. I'll project my voice somewhat. All right.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
the first thing I'd like to share with you is what is a stroke, because that we need to clarify what is a stroke. A stroke really means being struck down, and it's an ancient term going back to Hippocrates. And what it means is that there's a sudden loss of blood flow to the brain, resulting in damage or death to the brain tissue. Now, there are one of the most important concerns I've had with respect to the discussion is what should be our focus? Should your focus be to treat strokes, or should we be mainly concerned about preventing them? Because the good news is that most strokes are highly preventable. That's the good news. And so
most strokes are highly
highly
preventable.
preventable. And
Okay.
therefore, the take-home point we're going to make from this discussion is that most strokes are preventable, but some are not. Now, why do I say that? Let us look at those that are not preventable. You get strokes oftentimes because of narrowing of blood vessels due to old age, over which we have no control. And you get stroke oftentimes because you have the wrong gender, like being a male. So males have more atherosclerosis and narrowing of blood vessels than women. So those are some key factors over which you have no control: your age and your sex. However, when you look at the real causes of strokes, most of them are eminently preventable, and they're called lifestyle diseases, like high blood pressure. High blood pressure affects 33% of all Jamaicans, eminently preventable and treatable. Diabetes affects 12% of all Jamaicans, extremely treatable. Smoking, 10% of Jamaicans smoke. That is easy to stop. High cholesterol, which is excessive fat in your bloodstream, affects a whopping 25% of all Jamaicans. We just eat too much fat and too much junk food. Obesity, and this is a matter of major concerns for me, in that the latest survey shows that 55% of all Jamaicans are overweight and 34% are obese. That is worrisome. And then alcohol consumption, we like to take a drink from time to time, also predisposes you to stroke. So high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, smoking, high cholesterol, and obesity are the primary causes of strokes. And if we control those, very few Jamaicans will get strokes. Now, what is of interest then is how bad is the prevalence of stroke with respect to life expectancy. And 14% of total deaths in Jamaica are caused by stroke. What is of interest and very worrisome with respect to the 5 most common cause of death in Jamaica are violence, and you mentioned the issue with the policeman. In men, stroke in men is the second commonest cause of death. I want to repeat that. Strokes in Jamaican men is the second commonest cause of death. And the most common cause of death in Jamaica, and we are unique among many countries around the world, is violence and injuries. With respect to women,
So if you take out the violence and injuries, it really is stroke.
right,
Yeah.
really stroke. And with respect to women, the most common cause of death in women is sugar or diabetes, and the second commonest cause of death in women is stroke. So therefore, stroke is obviously a major cause of premature death in Jamaican men and women. Now, what are the two types of stroke? There are two types really. There's one in which there's bleeding in the brain due to rupture of the blood vessel, and that's called hemorrhagic stroke. The other type, which is due to narrowing of the blood vessel, and blockage, which is caused by hypertension, diabetes, smoking, obesity, and cholesterol, is called ischemic stroke, in which the blood vessel becomes blocked. And that affects 85% of persons with stroke. Now, with respect to the machine that has been established, and I must extend congratulations to UA and the government of Jamaica for acquiring this machine, because it's a valiant attempt to prevent death from strokes. So let's presume that you did all that.
Well, Doc, let me just jump in here, just because you have set up very beautifully the situation with stroke. But given its high profile, or given its high incidence, I was just thinking straight away that the medical system ought to be set up to be able to prevent strokes, and where strokes occur, to be able to deal with them and prevent fatalities from them. In other words, given what we know, we should be moving hard to prevent the strokes through education, but have the facilities fairly well distributed across the country to prevent deaths from stroke.
All right.
Is that flawed, or is that flawed?
No, absolutely. I've known you long enough, Franklin. Your thought processes are quite erudite. Definitely not flawed. In fact, the question I think that's going through your mind, if despite what causes you to get a stroke, you do get a stroke, can death be prevented with this particular machine? And the answer is yes. It has been shown to be about 80 to 85% effective in preventing death. And that's a significant data, because if you get a stroke and it is dealt with, and I'll discuss that just now, how it should be dealt with, then yes, it can prevent death. So you're preempting my discussion, because if I was to respond to you just now then, yes, we should have one of these machines in every region.
Absolutely.
Every region should have one of these machines to prevent death from strokes. And the data shows that it is around 80 to 85% effective if a stroke unit is set up and persons get to that particular facility fast. Now, therefore,
may I just elaborate on that, please? If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Dr. Alverston Bailey, and he's talking to us about strokes. And Dr. Bailey, one of the things that was said in the interview with the specialist was that you have to get, after the stroke, you need to get to the hospital, University Hospital, within 4 hours for them to be able to help you. And he pointed out that if you're in Spanish Town, yes, you can get to University Hospital. And if you're in St. Anne and so on, you might be able to get. But he made a point that, and he wasn't making a stress on it or being flippant about it, but if you're in Westmoreland, that might be a little different case. So, is this a 4-hour? Is that there sort of a 4-hour window? And what happens in other cases where people have a stroke?
all right. The key thing for us to bear in mind is adage we have in medicine, which says time is brain. And I like the adage because it says time is critical. For strokes caused by blood clots to be corrected, you need to get to the facility within 3 to 4.5 hours. After 6 hours, you have missed the opportunity for correction of the impaired blood supply that has occurred. Therefore, time is critical and time is brain. Therefore, to have the facility in Kingston is absolutely wonderful. But it means that those persons who are outside of the time zone that it will take to reach Kingston would not really be able to benefit from this. So unless facilities are set up to airlift persons rapidly from Western Jamaica and Southern Jamaica to university. Within that time zone, it would be a bit too late for them to benefit from the machine. But it's a step in the right direction. And I presume that this is the beginning of equipping all the regions with this machine. Now, I actually wanted to respond to the question of time, because in many cases, why time becomes an issue, it's because the patients do not recognize that they're having a stroke. And by the time they arrive at the hospital, sometimes a day had passed or 2 days, and by then it's too late. And so part of the rationale for this discussion, I think, is to remind persons that there are some warning signs of an impending stroke, and they must respond to the signs urgently and get help quickly. And the acronym that they use for impending stroke is fairly easy to remember, and it is FAST. F-A-S-T. F means your face begins to droop, like your face will get twisted to one side, or you have an uneven smile. That is F. A is your arm become weak and you cannot lift your arm above your head. S, your speech become difficult or slurred, and so it means that it's time to seek help. So it's F-A-S-T, face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, and time to act. You might observe weakness in the face, arm, or leg, or you might have visual problems or dizziness, or you might have a severe headache, which you've never had before. And so it means that time is ticking. So once this occurs, it is time zero. And you have
So all of those things indicate to you that you have had a stroke. That person has had a stroke.
No, it's a warning that a stroke is coming your way. So it's called a transient ischemic attack, which means there's a reduction of blood supply to the brain, and you need help right away. If you do not respond, you are going to end up along the continuum and have a stroke in evolution, which means that the symptoms will get worse. But you're not yet paralyzed. And then you end up with a completed stroke where you become completely paralyzed. So the initial warning signs is called a transient ischemic attack, which tells you that there's a decrease of blood supply to the brain, and the cause must be determined urgently, and you need help.
And Dr. Bailey, what happens to you now? What happens? What sort of window do you have in that case? Because those would be the normal thing. Most people would not be going to the university hospital. What happens from that stage? You go to your doctor as to you, or you go to a hospital. What would happen when you are responding to those FAST?
Okay, all right. The advice I want to give to patients is you must, always tell people that there are 3 persons whose phone number you must always have on your phone. 1 is your doctor, 2 is your lawyer, and 3 is your banker. I'm not too sure who is more important than the other, but everyone listening must have their doctor's phone number, because you need to call and tell him quickly what is happening and let him give you some advice. So if you notice the facial drooping, the arm weakness, the speech difficulty, call your doctor right away, and he will advise you as to what to do. Because even though the machine is available, there are some important tests that must be done in order to determine the severity of the stroke, and also to determine the possibility of you making good use of the machine, because the machine cannot be used for all strokes. And that's an important point that I want to emphasize. It's only used in carefully selected persons. So it is not a panacea for everyone because it depends on the severity of the stroke and it depends on the location of the stroke. And it also depends on your state of health. So the doctor will actually advise you what is the best approach to adopt. Because in order for you to benefit from this stroke, from this machine, which will remove the clot, a number of tests have to be done before to determine your suitability.
I'm not interrupting. I don't want to focus so much on this machine because its availability, as you have said, and as they said, his point is going to be limited to people within that zone. And yes. Welcome, Desmond. But what I'm trying to find out is, when you mentioned some signs that people would be in an impending stroke. I'm trying to find out now, when you call up your doctor, you have the phone number, you call up the doctor, or you call the hospital, or whatever you are doing. What happens from there? Is it that you are going to just say, get to a hospital, or what happens?
Okay. Basically, an impending stroke is similar to an impending heart attack. And so the first thing we'd recommend is that you take an aspirin, because that can help to modify the clotting process. You take an aspirin and then you come to the hospital right away. If you come to the hospital, we anticipate that the hospital can do some preliminary investigations urgently. In other words, you need to have a team on standby for managing strokes. It's not something you wait on. So once you call your doctor will call the regional hospital and say, I have an impending stroke. Could you stand by to do these investigations for me, like right now? And the investigations that have to be done is a CT scan. Quickly. It has to be done quickly to determine if you are hemorrhaging in your brain.
Hold on a second there, doctor. It's very, very important. So you're saying that you as a doctor would call through to the hospital and advise them that you have a patient who is going to be coming there and so on. And then you said that they would. So two things I wanted to ask you. The first one is whether that is a sort of standard procedure that the hospitals do have teams that are waiting and can deal with stroke victims or victims of impending stroke. Number two is whether the CT scan is available, because as far as I understand, most hospitals don't have those.
Outsourced.
Okay, now I'm presenting to you an ideal situation. So you asked me what I would recommend. In an ideal situation, I would say take 2 aspirin, head straight to the hospital. I will call and say, I have a patient who have an impending stroke. Could you mobilize your stroke team to be on standby? And part of the process is an urgent CT scan immediately, not in an hour, 2 hours, or next week. It has to be done immediately to rule out an hemorrhage. And then, because if you have an hemorrhage, you're not a candidate for using the machine, because the machine cannot be used if you have an hemorrhage. If a CT is done and you do not have an hemorrhage, then the next phase is to do an MRI to find out where is the infarction. So the hemorrhage is to determine if there's the CT is to determine if there's an hemorrhage. Then you need to do in your facility, your stroke facility, the MRI now should be activated to detect if an infarction, where the infarction is. And then in an ideal world, you'll also try to locate the site of the blockage, and then you ship them off to you for the surgeon to remove the blockage. That's an ideal situation. But the minimum that needs to be done if you have an impending stroke is a CT to rule out an hemorrhage. Because if there's an hemorrhage, the thrombectomy cannot be done. Now, I think most hospitals in Jamaica do have the ability to have a seat to do an urgent CT. I'm not saying that they have the CT, but they do have the ability. And the minimum that the government could do is to put a CT scan in every hospital. Because without the CT scan, to determine if there's an hemorrhage, it's pointless to send them to UA, because UA will not be able to deal with it, because you will also have to do the CT scan and waste time. We only have 4 hours, So if I send you to one of the regions, the CT is done, so we now moving to up our number 2. We call you and say we have a thrombotic infarction. We're going to put this person on a helicopter and take them to UA within another hour. So that 3 hours. Mobilize your stroke team and get ready to do an angiogram to find the location of the blockage, and then do what is necessary. 3 to 4.5 hours. Now,
Doctor, you have, as you have said, in an ideal world, and you have explained the procedures that should be undertaken. But, the lack of education about some of these things in Jamaica, I mean, we're repairing a little bit of this, and I've been educated by you right now. But the lack of education about some of this in Jamaica is what I suspect allows people to be so coy about the system. Because Dr. Bailey, let me tell you, sir, because you are a scientist, you're a medical person, and you're not involved in this side of the thing. But let me tell you, many hospitals do not have a CT scan.
That's outsourced, yes.
That machine. And they're outsourced.
Just hold on. Just CT scan.
No, not just that.
No, not just that. They don't have diagnostic.
Most of the public hospitals in Jamaica are under-equipped.
Yes, well, I want to speak with Dr. Bailey about the CT scan in particular, because he says that is what
an MRI
that will be employed. As to the MRI, nobody even talk about that. But colleagues, Dr. Bailey, a friend of mine just needed some heart care. Just had some heart care needs, and was being sent to St. Anne's Bay Hospital by her doctor to see a cardiologist. When she went down there, there's no cardiologist at St. Anne's Bay Hospital. And I checked this. The St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital, there's no cardiologist.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I'm saying, and we're going back to our stroke discussion with Dr. Bailey facilitated. What I'm saying is that stroke is a primary, is number 2, number 1 after violence.
In men.
In men. Number 2 for women after, is it diabetes? No?
Diabetes, yes.
Right. So this is a very, very serious matter.
Major cause of death.
How widespread? Can I ask the doctor this? How widespread?
You joined late, Desmond, but go ahead.
Yes, he went through that, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Desmond. Go ahead.
Okay.
I would like to ask the doctor, how widespread are strokes in Jamaica?
Okay, I'll just remind. Okay, it's the second leading cause of death in men and women in Jamaica. It causes about 10,000 deaths per year. So it's the second leading cause of death in men and women in Jamaica. So it is
about
a major, it's a major. It's roughly 1.4% of the population is affected by stroke annually. So
and Franklin, you heard what the doctor said a while ago, and based on what I understand from this program, only one machine in Jamaica, as we speak, to address this sickness, which is so widespread, and it is based at the University of the West Indies Hospital, miles away from St. Anne, where I come from. If I took sick with a stroke, by the time I reach university, I would be dead.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
You might, you might, I suspect you might not be dead, but you'll be disabled.
You'll be
Yes.
disabled.
So, which you might regard as similar to living dead. But anyway, because if you are disabled, in many cases, you become immobile, you can't talk, you can't swallow, you can't move. You're basically in a kind of crazy vegetative state. You've actually, I've actually answered the question that stroke is a major problem in Jamaica, and the measures that that particular machine can reverse it in about 80% of the time, if you get there before 6 hours. If you get there before 6 hours, and all the preliminary tests are done before you arrive, because if you have to travel to UA to get the preliminary test done, you have passed the 6 hours. Therefore, the regional hospital should have done the CTs, done the relevant blood investigations, identify the location of the blockage, and you just go to UA to have the blockage removed.
In other words, if you're in Port Maria or near to Port Maria Hospital, you're supposed to go to that hospital first. They're supposed to set up all those procedures, do all of those tests for you before you send to UA, whether by road or whatever way you get
Send
there.
you in an ambulance or helicopter.
And Dr. Bailey, it's not inspiring a lot of confidence in me today, based upon what I know is out there. And that's why I'm really just asking you, if it's not, I don't know if there are some people who are said to have suffered, or you see it in the common parlance, a massive stroke. A massive stroke. Is that different? Would the conditions be different from somebody who suffered a slight stroke? And can you define what those might be, doctor?
Excellent question, Franklin, because the machine that was established is not meant to be used for massive strokes, because the damage will have already been done. And in most cases, when you have a massive stroke, it really means that there is damage to the brain, and the purpose of the machine is to prevent damage to the brain. It's to facilitate the return of blood supply to the brain so that it's not damaged. If you have a massive stroke and you cannot talk, you cannot move, you have no movement of the upper and lower limb, the damage has already been done, and therefore this machine would not be helpful. It is for you to turn up when you have those warning signs, facial drooping and the arm weakness and the speech problem. Yeah. So we want to catch you before you end up with total paralysis of the upper and lower limb and total unconsciousness. If that's the case, the damage has long been done and you can't be helped. So the purpose behind the machine is to prevent you from progressing to a massive stroke.
Okay, this may be a good time to welcome Marvel Hewitt, who says good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, Marvel.
The point I wanted to emphasize, frankly, because of the timelines and time is brain, is that we're encouraging all the regional hospitals to at least have the minimum equipment to do the CT scan, to do the heart test and echocardiogram to make sure your heart is okay, and to do the lab tests like your blood fat levels, your glucose, and the factors that contribute to bleeding. By the time they arrive at UA, all that should be in a package for them to just take you to the suite. It is called a stroke suite, and just do what they have to do. Because if you turn up at our number 4 for them to start all those investigations, by the time they're finished, it will mean our number 6 or 7 or 8, and by then it will be too late. Even though you might benefit after 6 hours, the risk of recovery dwindles with time. So it's important that that we recognize that one machine in the country is absolutely wonderful, but it's the beginning of a transformation process, I think, in stroke management. If we
Dr. Bailey, Dr. Bailey, some months ago on this program, I spoke with Dr. James, who is in charge of looking at all these diagnostic stuff all over the country and so forth. And one of the things that also burdened me at the time is the cost of these things. Is this machine that you, from your research, so expensive that we're unlikely to see one in all of the other regions?
Franklin, I wasn't able to determine the name of the machine, and that, so I can't comment, but I suspect that it is costly. But that's easy to verify. I suspect that it is costly, and so that would be an inhibiting factor for them to.
But even what you are calling for, having the basic equipment to do the CT scan. What else you said, Doc?
The MRI.
The hospital.
Okay, it's important to recognize the process. The first thing you need to do is to determine if there's a hemorrhage or not. Because if there's a hemorrhage, this person has to be treated medically with supportive treatment. If there's no hemorrhage, but there's obvious reduction of blood supply to a particular region of the brain, resulting in certain symptoms, then you need to determine if an infarction, you need to determine the health of the brain tissue. And only the MRI can help you to determine that at this very early stage. The CT will tell you if the brain tissue is dead. We don't want any dead brain tissue. We want to find out if the brain tissue the health is being compromised. You need an MRI to detect that. And then you need to do I think called an angiogram, where dye is injected into the veins to identify the location of the blockage, because you can't start unblocking blood vessels unless you identify which blood vessel can block. And they're called large vessel blockage. So you look for the big vessels, because if it's a very small vessel, you won't be able to do anything. But the big ones are the ones that you're looking for. And you need to do an angiogram to locate the blockage. So you need a CT scan, a minimum an angiogram. You could bypass the MRI, but you need to do the angiogram before you can intervene, because you need to know where to go. And so can the local hospitals do the CT scan and the angiogram? The answer is yes. But are they costly? The answer is also yes. But because of the high impact of stroke on the morbidity or mortality of Jamaica, the second leading cause of death in men and in women, it behoves us to try and find the money to do what is necessary to save our people's lives. So I see.
I think you're right on target there, Doc. So help us again with the education part of it. What do you suggest to people to do not to make themselves more susceptible to stroke?
All right. So in fact, in my opening remarks, I said that apart from old age and being a male, over which you have no control with respect to narrowing of blood vessels with the passage of time, the majority of strokes are eminently preventable by ensuring that you identify and treat high blood pressure, which affects 1 out of every 3 Jamaicans. We need to identify and treat diabetes, which affects 12% of Jamaicans. And diabetes is extremely treatable. I tell my patients that if you get complications of diabetes in 2025, you've committed suicide, because we have such good and wonderful drugs to prevent diabetes. There's no reason to get a stroke from diabetes. We recommend that you check your doctor annually and have your heart checked to see if your heart is beating properly, because irregularity of the heartbeat, called atrial fibrillation, can cause it to slow blood clots. Therefore, check your doctor regularly and ensure that it does a heart test on you. You must not smoke. Smoking causes narrowing of blood vessels and predisposed to stroke. High cholesterol is extremely common in this country. 25% of Jamaicans have high cholesterol, which facilitate narrowing out of blood vessels, which result in stroke. All this jerk pork and all these various types of fast food is extremely bad for you, and it is just facilitating your early demise. Therefore, get your cholesterol checked. Obesity is a major problem now. 55% of Jamaicans are now suffering from overnutrition, and obesity releases all kinds of chemicals that obstruct your blood vessels and will cause your early demise. And of course, alcohol, a small drink per day is okay. Overindulgence is dangerous. So those are and of course,
Yes.
physical exercise and proper dieting will help to improve your health. So the take-home point is that since, unfortunately, we only have one machine in Jamaica, and since apparently we might not have the backup services to do the investigations before you're sent before you're sent to UA to do the embolectomy, it's best to avoid getting a stroke. And most importantly, if despite your best effort, you do not, if despite your best effort, you end up with an early warning of a stroke, facial drooping, arm weakness, difficulty speaking, it's time to act is no. Call your doctor whose phone number should be always on your person. And
I have,
so
yes.
those are my advice.
I have a question for you, doctor, but I would love to take this comment from Marva Hewitt. She's asking the question. She's saying all these tests are at a cost. So what if the person does not have any funds? That's one of our viewers, the question from one of our viewers.
That's a good question.
Yes, do you want to take that first, and then I'll ask my question?
That's a good question. But the government of Jamaica has put systems in place to procure imaging free of charge. And therefore, they should have private facilities perhaps on standby to provide you with the various investigations.
No, it's not free. It's not free. When you're sent out to these places, I just the same young lady I was telling you about who was having heart problems and so forth. She paid $75,000 for the CT scan.
No, I thought it was free.
No,
I thought there's an arrangement with.
When the hospital sends you out there, it's not free.
Oh?
Not free. A family member has to come and pay that money, or else you won't be able to do the test.
So we have a problem there, because we have a problem because if you're going to do an emergency CT, you have to mobilize the facility. You have to bring out the radiologist, and the team has to come. And so, if it is done as an emergency, it's going to cost more than a regular CT because it might be needed at night. So, but I really thought, forgive my ignorance, that there was an arrangement to get these tests done at the government's cost. So unless that is true.
I don't know of that unless it is more than, recent really means within 3 years, but unless it's last week.
They picked up, but a part of it might, but once they send you out there, you're still going to have to pay something.
You have to pay.
Okay, so.
But Doc, I was trying to find out, before the UA, the machine at UHWI became available, the process would take place all together in a hospital. In the hospital that you go to first. Is that what would happen?
All right. You see, you see, there are two approaches to treating stroke. One is medical, and the other one is surgical. The machine which has been acquired offers you what is called mechanical thrombectomy, which means that it is it is a surgical procedure where the clot is removed. The clot is removed. But prior to the advent of this machine, we had other options, We had other options, which is called medical intervention. And medical intervention actually uses medication to lyse or dissolve clots. So that is a tool that has been around for quite a while. So the new thinking is that if you inject a medication to lyse a clot and you also follow up with the thrombectomy, the outcome is better than if you just do the medical treatment alone. So the combination of the medical treatment to soften the clot and the thrombectomy to remove it has been shown to give a significant higher recovery rate of patient. But we have always had for years the ability to inject a medication to lyse the clot. But the problem is, in order for you to inject the medication, you have to do all the relevant investigations before, which is the CT and the angiograms.
Tests, all the same.
So all the tests have to be done before you lyse with a medication or you do the surgery. So we have always had the ability to lyse the clot. But I'm not sure how many hospitals have a stroke unit that offers that service. But that is not expensive, the lysing of the clot. And the machine for thrombectomy is expensive. CTs worldwide now are not expensive. And so we just have to bite the bullet and get them. So that at least if we can't give the thrombectomy, we should be able to lyse the clot and prevent adverse outcomes.
Dr.
Okay,
Bailey,
my question, I really don't want Dr. Bailey to go without answering this
Go ahead,
question
Winnie. Go ahead,
because it
please.
has to do with what is inevitable. Age. This is my understanding based on my own research, and I would love the doctor's comment on this. There's a difference between chronological age and biological age. There's nothing that we can do about our chronological age, but there's something that we can do about our biological age. Are you of that opinion as well, Dr. Bailey?
Well, yes. There is this concept of accelerated aging. Our chronological age is understandable, but what happens is that a lot of persons ignore what we call self-care. If you don't pay attention to self-care, and your body is a machine that is constantly working and manufacturing and producing byproducts, and if you don't pay attention to self-care, the aging process will accelerate. And so if you fail to eat properly, if you fail to sleep well, if you fail to take appropriate exercise, and you do not pay attention to stress management, then you're going to age prematurely. And I've seen some of my patients in their 50s that looks like 80 because of the kind of lifestyle that they have lived. And so all the attendant problem that comes with aging will just occur faster. So it is important for us to pay attention to self-care so that at least you can live out your years free of most of the maladies that comes with premature aging.
Okay. Well, I'm happy for your answer because when we were talking about what you can do something about, I remember you saying, and you can correct me if I didn't hear correctly, that age, there's nothing that you can do about that. And that was when the question came to my mind. Your chronological age, you can do nothing about, but there's still something that can be done.
Okay, I totally
So
agree
thanks
with
for that.
you. For healthy lifestyle will definitely retard a lot of the problems that we see. And I've known many patients who, I've had a patient who was 38 who was extremely obese. His cholesterol was very high, and he could easily pass for 68, and he died from a stroke because all the aging process was just accelerated in him. And so, yes, one has to practice self-care to avoid accelerated biological aging.
Thank you
Well,
for
Dr.
that.
Bailey, you have certainly stimulated my thinking. I really appreciate the details that you have given us to understand the stroke. The idea of the machine really pushed me when I saw that there's just this one machine in Jamaica. And the reason I was asking you about the situation and the treatment prior to that machine is that I know that people, for example, as you have said, in Western Jamaica, would still be going through the procedures, not thinking so much about what's available at you, not necessarily what they will be going through. I appreciate your the education about what are the predisposing factors and the fact that these symptoms that you pick up are ahead of the stroke and that you must move fast. Grab your doctor's number, but move fast, call up the doctor and be there. But I'm still a little bit concerned, and I'm going to do some more thinking about it, about what our hospitals are able to do, what is available in them in treating somebody who turns up there saying, I think a stroke is coming on.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. McKnight. This is quite an interesting program because I don't think you address health issues as often as perhaps you and I would like to talk about. But the truth is, we have to perhaps, accept that we do have financial constraints and we need to prioritize. And my concern right now is health promotion and disease prevention as be key to us addressing our healthcare needs in Jamaica, rather than waiting until we have adverse outcomes and not being able to treat them as effectively as we ought to treat it.
Yes.
And going forward, we hope the government will be acquiring more machines and put them in all the regions so that at least all Jamaicans will benefit from mechanical thrombectomy.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey, and congratulations for being awarded the Order of Distinction Commander Class in the recently announced National Honors List. I know you didn't want us to tell everybody about that, but
Thank
it's
you.
well
That's
deserved.
public knowledge. Thank you for,
Yeah.
for bringing it up. Congratulations, Doctor, and keep up your amazing work.
Thank you very much to all of you, and looking forward to having another chat with you soon, Frankly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, Desmond was supposed to be going off at this point, but Desmond is actually already off. He's going to be on a panelist on a radio program dealing with the election date watch. Winnie, I don't think you have too much of an interest in the date. Do you have an interest in the date, Winnie?
But of course, I'm Jamaican. I would want to
Okay.
know. It
Okay.
Okay. me. Of
Yeah.
course, I do have
Well,
an interest
there
in
are
the
some
date.
people who are doing the mathematics, working it out and saying that it could be as early as September 3, which is when it was the last time, and that that might be seen a special look or whatever in that date for the Prime Minister, and as well as it could be a little later, and that the school year might even be. And then there's a lot of speculation about that. But guess what happened? In 2 or 3 hours, I don't think more than 3 hours, we will all really know what the date is. So,
Yes,
Winnie, we're coming to you now on something. Sorry, you were saying
yes.
something there?
No, I was saying that what I'm interested in is not the speculation about the date, but the date itself. That's
Yes.
what. So I don't join the
Exactly.
speculation. I just want to hear the date. I'm not interested in the speculation.
Yes, and only one person, I suspect still, only one person knows the date. Prime
Yes,
Minister
others
Okada.
would suspect by close association
and
with
guess.
him and what's going on. But
But the Prime Minister is the one who has the date and
yes,
who can set the date, and he will do it by the laws.
yes.
Okay, Winnie. So we have been talking about other things, and we spoke about the stroke as something that continues a health issue, and no matter what happens with the date and with what happens consequent to the date,
Yes.
these health issues are with us.
With us.
One other issue that has been with us for a while, and we have been talking about it on this program, is the life certificates
Oh,
And
yes.
Winnie, you have kept your eyes on that.
Oh,
Help us a
yes.
little bit and give us an update on
Oh,
what's
oh,
happening
yes.
regarding life certificates.
Oh, yes. I'm going to take us back to May 2023, when Floyd Green was working out of the Prime Minister's office. We know exactly what happened and why he was there.
Yeah.
So he made the announcement during this sectoral debate that the government was moving to end the life certificate regime. We had Dr. Nigel Clark as Minister of Finance then. He's gone. Floyd Green is back to the post that he had prior to that.
Ministry of Agriculture.
Right. He's back to the Ministry of Agriculture. So I have a question. Is it because Nigel Clark left and Floyd Green is back in agriculture why this is stalled? And I must say, within the context of today, I don't believe in election promises. I don't believe in manifestos. Why? The people outside, they are out there saying what they would do, but they are not there. During the sectoral debates, they are there. They have the money. It's a part of the budget. So what they say, I believed. Now, I don't know what has happened.
You
Is
mean
it that,
you're saying that what Minister Green said then is
yes,
something that you could believe because he's was in a position.
right. And the
Okay.
government, it was during the sectoral debate. So they would know what they can do and cannot do. It's not like those outside now trying to say when they get inside what they would do. This is what is planned. It's during the budget period. So we know they have the money. So what happened? Why is it to date nothing has been done to make sure that they link the Registrar General's Department with the Accountant General Department and the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, so that seniors would not have to send in life certificates? Why do we continue to have to tell people that people are dead or not dead yet? Why? When they have not been reported dead or missing. Why?
And you're not
Why?
impressed by the fact that they're saying they are going to go to the process but have it all electronic.
No, but they should not have that. What I am in this decade of the of older persons, I was going to say the elderly, but they call it the decade of the older person. It should not be a case, right? This is 2025. What you came out, you said you were going to do that. Why the change? No explanation. What is happening? Why is this stalled? And why can't seniors benefit from the digital age? Why? If you can't, these are exciting times. If you can't find a human being, or if it is too expensive to have a human being, well, you have agentic AI. So go build an agent to deal with it. There are many ways, inexpensive ways, rather than burdening seniors to tell you that they're still alive. It's a waste as well.
Right.
7 life certificates for a year? Seven?
Yes.
7 times to tell government that people are still alive. It's a waste, and it should really stop. But who is going to stop it? When enough people keep talking about it, it matters seriously.
And accepting it. That's our show for today. Thank you, Winnie. Thank you all for watching. Remember, the podcast is available on the Frankly Speaking YouTube channel at your convenience. Remember to share and subscribe to the Frankly Speaking YouTube channel. On behalf of Desmond Richards, was here very briefly on his way to an event, and Winnie Anderson Brown, I want to thank Dr. Alverston Bailey, general practitioner, who was helping us with so much today, and Joshua Black, producer and graphic artist. I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then.